Interesting how John the evangelist worded this phrase in verse 4 of the chapter that was just read. Give you a background, Jesus came from, and his disciples, they came from Judea. Judea is in the southern part of Israel. There are three regions, major regions in Israel: Judea, Samaria, and Galilee. Judea nasa south, sa baba. Samaria is in the middle, and then Galilee is in the north. Galilee is was where Nazareth and Capernaum were, and Judea is where Jerusalem is, and the temple, and the Pharisees, and the Jews. So Jesus, remember, he just came from being baptized by John, and he also started a ministry in Judea, and he was baptizing people there. And then when he learned that the Pharisees, or when he discovered that the Pharisees learned that he was gaining a following, and he knew that they were jealous, he started heading back home to Galilee. So from Judea, dadaan ka ng Samaria para makarating ka sa Galilee. Okay? But as we all know, the Jews and the Samaritans were at odds with each other. Magkaaway ang dalawa na yan, no? Religious fight ang religious battle. And the Israelites, when they would go from Galilee to Judea, or Judea to Galilee, they would go around Samaria. Iniiwasan nila yun. Iikot pa sila either to the west or to the south para makarating sa pupuntahan nila. Remember, in the latter part of Jesus' ministry, they asked to pass through Samaria and actually stay there for the night in their travel, going from Galilee to Judea and Jerusalem, right? But the Samaritans were hostile to them. They were not hospitable. So, because there has always been a dispute, hostilities between the two peoples. But John says in his gospel that Jesus had to go through Samaria. Kailangan niya daw dumaan sa Samaria. Did he have to? No, he didn't have to, because like we said earlier, the Jews avoided passing through Samaria. But John says Jesus had to. Well, he really didn't have to, except that in his heart, he felt he had to. He knew that there was a woman in Samaria he would meet at, hindi naman sila nag-appointment, no? But he knew that he would encounter this Samaritan woman at the well, and that she needs him to save her. So that's what he did. When others see opposition, he sees an opportunity. And we, like many people, even if we claim to be followers of Jesus, we're like the world. When we see opposition, we stay away from it, instead of seeing opportunities in the opposition. Konting inconvenience lang, konting may kukontra lang, konting may nakaaway ka lang, we curl up, we walk away, we turn around, we walk away. But Jesus is different. And we should be like him. Different, holy, peculiar. It's different from the world. Where there is darkness, that's where he goes to shine his light. Di ba? It reminds me of the prayer of Saint Francis. Uh, where there is hatred, he prays, let me bring your love. Many of us, even Christians, where there is hatred, we would stay away from that place and we would go somewhere else where there is love. Because it's easier, right? But the thing is, we have the love of God. And where there is hatred, that's where we take the love of God so that the hatred will be overcome by the love. But we don't want to be inconvenienced. Ang gusto natin, iwas na lang. Kasi ayoko ng sakit ng ulo. Gusto ko kapayapaan, dito na lang ako sa tahimik. Where there's hatred, let me bring your love. Where there's injury, let me bring your pardon. Where there's sin, let me bring your pardon. No, what we do is when we see sin, we think I'm too holy to be involved in sin. But that's our calling. That's our very calling. Where there's sin, let me bring your pardon, your forgiveness, right? Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Ano pa sabi ni St. Francis? There's injury and pardon. Where there is darkness, let me bring your light. Like I always say, Jesus did not have to leave heavenly light. The kingdom of heaven was pure light. He did not have to leave that light and go to earth where there is darkness. But, like John said, he had to. Why? Because he's the God of love. And he could not stand seeing his people dying in darkness, dying in sin, right? Dying in hopelessness. That's who Jesus is. And so he goes to Samaria, meets this woman, and again, Jesus is different, peculiar. Instead of having condemnation in his heart, he has restoration in it. Others would see this ostracized woman as that, sinful. We should not be dealing with her. Which is why, this explains why she was drawing water at 12 noon in the heat of the day, when others would go early morning when it's colder, because drawing water in stone jars was a tedious task. It was strenuous. Mga babae pa yung gumagawa nun. Ginagawa nila yun sa umaga, hindi mainit, mas hindi ka mapapagod. But she was ostracized. Iniiwasan siya. At siya rin umiiwas siya kasi nahihiya siya eh. Bakit? Kasi 5 na yung naging asawa niya eh. Ang tingin sa kanya ng society, she was a promiscuous woman. Jesus saw her differently. She saw her as a child of God, desperately seeking love. But she was looking for love in all the wrong places. And so she was married, and she got married and divorced 5 times. And she's living together with somebody with whom she's not married. So Jesus has compassion for her. Not condemning, but saving, restoring. Again, we are to be like Jesus. We don't have to come to church. We don't have to build a building. We don't have to feed the poor. We don't have to minister to people who are hurting. Right? Because, God has blessed me. My life is peaceful. I have abundance. Why do I need to reach out to others who are needy? Why? Because you don't only have the blessings of God, you have the compassion of God. And you have to do those things because your nature, the divine nature you're a partaker of, compels you. Like St. Paul says, The love of Christ compels me, right? It drives me. Zeal for your house consumes me to do good like Jesus did. So do we have to do these things? We can argue that we don't have to do these things. You know, there's this debate. One of the biggest debates in Christianity is, do we have to give our tithe? You can say you don't have to. But you can also say, because I have the love of God in me, I have the generosity of God in me, I really don't have to, but I want to. In fact, you don't tell me how much to give, because I will give more. I will give much. Because my God, He gave His all. What more could He give? And how do we respond to that? We cannot outgive God, but we can emulate Him. We can imitate Him, because we are partakers of His divine nature, and we, like we say, are His followers. So we follow after Him. May we learn from Jesus' example. He is not forced to do things, to do good things, but it's just His nature. And because that's His nature, He just has to do these things. Not because He's forced, but because His nature tells Him to do it. That's Jesus' example. And that's the way it is in the kingdom of our God.